How's everybody? Good? No more rain, right? Enough? Hi, Lisa. Welcome back. All right, we want to talk today about something we do each budget cycle, and that is the important process of engaging the public in the conversation with respect to what changes we're thinking about or may have to think about, as the case may be. And so we wanted to dedicate this press conference today to, is the mic on? Do you hear me all right? Okay. To a discussion of how this all will be conducted in this go-around of the budget. So, as I think most of you are aware, Lincoln's formula for success has been well established, at least in our minds, over the last few years. Our community is well regarded nationally, we know that, because we have developed a shared vision of the future and moved decisively forward in so many different ways. The private and public sectors are unified like never before, and the results have been generally speaking for themselves, whether it's our booming economy or our unparalleled quality of life. The critical part of that formula for success is developing a consensus in the face of challenges. Challenges come up, it seems like, every year in this day and age. When we sit down and reason together, we more quickly find the solutions, and we find better solutions, and together that propels us to successful outcomes. A great example recently was the sales tax vote to replace the public safety radio system and to build the new fire stations also. After dozens, literally dozens of community meetings, a plan emerged, and the public overwhelmingly supported the solution to the problem. Lincoln was at its best in that sequence of events. Lincoln was at its best again. We've been doing that. The 2016-18 city budget represents two new challenges. First, a key revenue source for the city is coming in nearly 20% less than projected. The telecommunications tax is the city's third largest revenue source, behind the property tax and behind the sales tax. Changes in people's consumption of cable TV and increased competition amongst smartphone data providers appears to have driven down consumer spending, and thus the amount of the telecommunication tax collected related to those transactions. As a result, bottom line is we're projecting $1.7 million less in revenue for each of the two for each of the two next budget years and in the years to come. Second item, the police and fire pension must be fully funded by law to protect the retirements of police officers and firefighters who keep our families safe. Fully funding the pension also protects the taxpayers who fund those benefits. The pension is consuming a larger portion of the city's budget. When I took office, 9 years ago now, I guess, we were contributing about $3.5 million a year, $3.5 million a year. That amount has more than doubled for 2016-17 to at least $8 million. That's a $4.5 million annual increase during my administration, during the last 8 years. Coupled with the telecommunication losses, we are forced to work with $6 million less for all other programs. How we address the budget gap created by these changes is the topic of this year's Taking Charge budget survey. The Taking Charge effort for the 2016-18 budget continues our unique process of asking you, the citizens, about your budgeting priorities for the city. The survey simulates the discussions that we in fact face as policymakers. In years past, the survey has yielded invaluable information in developing our administration's budget proposals. I have come to strongly believe in the process because it helps us identify taxpayer preferences and to develop the community consensus we need to move forward to do that which the public wants. We are once again participating with the University of Nebraska's Public Policy Center to administer our online budget survey and the follow-up community conversation. The center does an outstanding job of engaging the public. We've been partners with them for several years now. And our partnership has been receiving, as I understand it, Lisa, some national attention. That's great. Lisa Pikulik-Zelig of the center is here today, and we'll ask her to come up shortly to discuss their role. Today, I wanted to share the survey with the community and to urge our citizens to take a few minutes and give us their thoughts and ideas on the budget. Survey respondents will be given a hypothetical $500,000 to spend on 9 current city programs that cost approximately $2 million to fund in the upcoming budget year. The programs are chosen because they are lower priority programs compared to other city services. It is then a very realistic look at programs that could be in jeopardy of not being funded in the 2016-18 budget. They include the following items: the Health Department's Health Information and Referral Call System. The center answers general health questions, provides referrals to uninsured people looking for health providers, and gives direction as to how to apply for Medicaid, general assistance, and the health insurance marketplace. Snow removal is another survey topic. If neighborhood snow removal is chosen for a cut, neighborhood streets would be plowed only after receiving 6 inches of snow rather than after 4 inches. Parking and abandoned vehicle enforcement, another item. A reduction in this program would mean police would only enforce abandoned vehicle and parking laws in cases where vehicles actually block the street or pose a safety hazard. In-home services for seniors are included: personal care, homemaker, transportation, and caregiver assistance for low-income seniors. Helps keep seniors staying in their homes. These are some of the items. Those of you who took the survey last year will recognize several programs. The survey asked about funding for a day of library service, non-injury accident reporting, the Pioneer Park Nature Center, and neighborhood swimming pools. You, the public, can choose which programs you would like to see funded or discontinued, and the program will automatically tell you the property tax impact. For instance, if you choose not to continue any of the programs, you would receive an annual reduction in your property taxes of about $4.50 a year. If you chose to fully fund all of the programs, your property taxes would go up about $13 a year. While the focus on current city services is our immediate challenge, we also have to prepare for the future at the same time. The Taking Charge survey has a section on future needs so that we can learn more about your preferences on such items as the South Beltway, Parks and Recreation capital needs, increased Star Tram bus service, replacing Bennett Martin Library, and our golf replacement and repair program. The questions the survey participants confront about what should be funded and what should be eliminated are the same questions that we approach as policymakers this year. We believe this survey is an effective means of helping people understand and teaching people about the choices we face at City Hall. You can take the survey by going to lincoln.ne.gov. You will also find a printed version of the survey in tomorrow's Neighborhood Extra. Printed versions will also be available at all city libraries and in the mayor's office. As we have done every year, we will follow the online survey with a community conversation between city leaders and members of the public. On Saturday, June 18th, we will meet with those of you who have taken the survey and expressed an interest in being involved in a face-to-face discussion. We will have that discussion with our city department directors and myself. You can sign up to be included at the end of the survey that you take. A little different this year, Leadership Lincoln has agreed to be a partner on the community conversation this year. Those who have gone through its leadership training program will be invited to join the Saturday discussion. Leadership Lincoln is great training for the type of collaborative decision-making process that we use for the budget. The new executive director, Mick Hale, is a strong proponent of involving Leadership Lincoln participants in this kind of real community engagement. So I'm grateful to Leadership Lincoln and to Mick for their participation for the first time this round. The measure of a great community, all of us in the mayor's office believe, is in its ability to solve problems without creating divisions that threaten future progress. The Taking Charge process is a public engagement tool that helps us find that unity that is the hallmark of great cities. So I urge you all to take time to make your voice heard. So with that, we'll take questions later, but right now I'd like to ask Lisa to come up if she would and take you through the mechanics of this process a little bit more, and we'll go from there. So Lisa, welcome back again. Good to see you.
You take this, I'll take this, and we'll go from there. I haven't broken anything.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So we're, as always, very excited about the survey. Some of you may have remembered some really long surveys in the past, and we do not disappoint this year. However, we have made it a little easier this year to figure out which parts of the survey you might be most interested in completing. We have three major parts to the survey. One is the typical current city budget priorities section, which is where you choose the programs that you would most like to fund, least like to fund, keeping in mind the impacts on taxes and the current budget situation. The second section is, as the mayor described, the looking to future priorities section. This is exciting because a lot of times we're so focused on what are we going to do about this gap that we don't get to talk about potential exciting projects or future growth that the city might have. So if you choose to do that section, you'll get to learn more about that. And then the last section is our satisfaction with city government, which is has the least amount of information in it, but it gives you a chance to just say kind of in general what you're happy with and what you're not happy with. So I'll show you how this works. If I want to first choose the funding gap, current city priorities, I can choose that. Takes me straight to that page, and you'll see there's quite a bit of information there. We're constantly trying to kind of balance the fact that that we want to know people's opinions, but we want the opinions to be somewhat informed. So we do have little brief descriptions about all of the programs that the mayor mentioned that you can choose from. When you choose, so for example, I'm just going to choose these last two randomly, and the order is randomly generated. I'm going to choose the last two and show you what happens. Or actually, I'll choose the last three so that we get something a little more interesting. When I choose programs, it adds up how many programs I've chosen to either somewhat or strongly fund, and gives me a total amount, and then gives me the impact on property taxes for every year for a typical $150,000 house. And then, of course, if your house is worth less or more than that, property taxes would be adjusted up or down. In addition, because we're not just assuming that people necessarily want to raise property taxes, we give you that information, but you actually can tell the city what you would like to do. You could go back and choose fewer programs to fund if you want. And I will note that anytime you choose neutral, unsure, or leave an item blank, the survey has to do something, so it just assumes that you do not want to fund it. So you can go back and fund fewer things. Now I'm under my $500,000 limit, and I can see that actually property taxes would slightly decrease. So I could choose nothing, I've balanced the budget. If my amount's over, I could say that actually I want to go cut other city programs. If you want to see a list of those programs, you can click here, and it takes you to the city's prioritization page, which some of you may remember many years ago, well, not many, but several years ago, we worked with the city and with individuals, residents of Lincoln, to kind of choose those priorities. So you could choose from those programs and write a little bit about why you wanted to choose those instead of the ones that were on the last page. Finally, this is the last aspect of the current budget situation, is just to rank order things. You might have said that you strongly feel that you want many things to be funded. This gives you a chance to say, if push comes to shove, what do you rank as more important or less important? You do have to kind of click on it and move something to get your choices to register, and you'll know that they registered because you'll see green numbers appear to the right. Then after that, you can choose to engage in any other part of the survey that you want, or you'll see that we also have a I am finished type thing. I'll just show you real quickly the looking into the future new priorities section. This one, it probably has the most information in it because these are the newest programs. These are future types of things instead of existing programs. So you can look at additional information for each program if you like. You can also, if you don't prefer to read and study things on the screen, you can actually just download all of the information in one PDF document with this link up here. So after you make those choices about those 5 areas, and you have a chance to explain your reasoning if you'd like, you can go on and rank those 5 things as well. Again, that's in case people give all of them high or low ratings. You can still rank which ones you think are most or least important. And then, once again, you're given a chance to go to the satisfaction or say you're finished. I'm going to just say I'm finished for now. This is where you can sign up for the face-to-face conversation. So the nice thing about surveys is that they're available anytime, any place that you have an internet connection, including at the city libraries. And you can get lots of people involved. Unfortunately, as you can see, we really struggle with how we're going to actually know why people are saying what they're saying. How are we going to know if they have questions about some of the topics that comes up? The community conversation provides a different avenue to really delve into what are your questions. We always have experts from the city there. We use a deliberation model developed by researchers at Stanford, Fishkin, and so on. So we always have experts there to answer questions. We give people a chance to learn more about the issues on the table, ask their questions, and then in small groups, engage in discussion with other people and hear other people's thoughts as they come up with what they think would be the best movement forward. So this is our in-depth way of trying to find out what people want and need and why they want it. And then finally, we have our typical demographic page. We get some pretty funny responses to some of these. Just A lot of people are wondering, why the heck do you need to know this? What relevance does it have? The biggest reason is just so that we know if everybody in Lincoln is represented. If we're getting, obviously, this is not a scientific survey. We do those every once in a while. Those are a lot more expensive and so on. So we just like to be able to estimate to what extent are we representing various ages, education levels, race and ethnicity, and so on. So once you, oh, should I go into this question?
No, you need to.
Okay. All right. Once you do that, you're done.
Okay, and Rick Hoppy is the person on my staff who works directly with Lisa and has for years now. And I want him to comment on a couple of things also. And then we'll take your questions on the mechanics of this and also any other questions.
I'm Rick Hoppy, I'm Mayor Byler's Chief of Staff, and I have a question. I know that the media people here are all infallible, okay? But I'm guessing everyone else in the room has made an error at some time in their life. Unfortunately, when you're in the mayor's office, the error tends to be magnified by about 100,000 times. We know that most of the people who are taking this survey will take it online, but it is important for us to provide an option for those without internet access. Now, we put together the survey in a paper version in the Neighborhood Extra, which appears in the Lincoln Journal-Star tomorrow, as the mayor mentioned. It was primarily intended to be an educational piece, but it did allow people to go ahead and take the survey and turn it in to us. Unfortunately, after it was printed, we discovered an error. We had included a program that was grant funded, and that really isn't appropriate for a discussion of property taxes. Now, that is not represented in the online survey, and that's where the vast majority of people take the survey. But for those who go ahead and give us the paper copy, we'll just keep those results separate so we don't contaminate the rest of the survey. And we appreciate the ongoing cooperation from the Neighborhood Extra. It's a great publication. They weren't the source of the error. That falls completely on me, so I apologize for the misunderstanding. When we make a mistake, we try to fess up and do what's right. We don't think it'll really have any sort of impact on the outcome here, because we only imagine that we'll get a couple dozen responses through the Neighborhood Extra. So with that note, we'll turn it back to questions.
Okay,
So on the online survey, do they only have those options for reducing, or can they say if they want to cut something else other than the 8 programs that are listed? Yeah.
Yes, in the comments section, you can go ahead and list anything that you'd like to do. In fact, this ties in then with our program prioritization online, and you can pick programs from that and say, I'd rather spend $300,000 someplace else, I'd rather cut someplace else.
I noticed that this doesn't anywhere in the survey mention police, except a couple of police things that they do. And one of the council people in Leva has made an issue of adding police officers. Is there any thought on this? You're not seeking public input on that particular question?
well, I suppose the starting point is we're looking at things that could be cut. But we're not going to be cutting any police or any fire or any public safety people. The question there has to do with ads and not with cuts. And we're still at a point where we don't know how much money we will have to add things at all. So we're taking a closer look at that. We're right in the middle of the budget process. And we'll go forward from there. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, Rick?
Mayor, in general, would you be considering then reducing staff?
Pardon me?
Would you be considering reducing city employees if you're having this kind of a shortfall that you're talking about with your budget?
Well,
Is that on the table as well?
everything's on the table at the moment. But everything's on the table at the moment. But as I just indicated, we're certainly not going to be cutting firefighters, 911, or police, for example. And that's way over half our budget. Parks has been devastated, as you know, by the recession cuts, where we cut, I don't know, 30 or 40 or more employees in parks. So it's hard to give them enough people to do what they're doing right now. It would be hard to cut them again. So these are the kinds of things we're dealing with at the moment.
You're talking about one fairly small cut and one larger increase. But the stuff that I've looked at, it looks like your property tax is coming in okay, and your sales tax is coming in at least as well as projected. So are there any issues with the two major tax funds?
Well, I think I'd ask Steve to comment on the exact figures with regard to property tax and sales tax. In terms of major problems with those two funds, I would say there are not major problems.
Our sales taxes are a little bit behind for the year, but that's been kind of typical of this time of year the last couple of years. And our most recent month, we gained on things a little bit. One of the things, though, we won't have working for us this year is a revaluation of property like we had in the last biennium. So we're dealing with a rate of property tax growth that's more in the 1.8% range rather than the 5% or more that we had in this most recent fiscal year. So that's presenting a little bit of a challenge. But other than that, I mean, obviously property tax gets levied and we collect it at the rate that it's levied. So it's not like it's falling behind what we're expecting. It's just that we aren't going to have a little bit of a boost in the budget that we had last year from the revaluation.
Just to give you, just to remind you of the relationship. When occupation taxes drop by 1.7 million, that's the equivalent of 1 penny of property tax. And when you have to reallocate from things like roads and fire and police operations to police and fire pension fund, an additional $3 to $4 million every year, that's the equivalent of another cent or two of property tax. So the reallocation, the decrease in revenues in the one case and the reallocation of revenues in the second case subtracts from the ability of the city to move ahead on economic development and all those things that are funded by the rest of the budget. Did I confuse you or make that clear? Ask me if I confused you and we'll straighten it out.
What are you looking at for the pension fund increase? $7 million or something higher than $7 million?
Well,
Next fiscal year and the year after?
something higher than $7 million. How much higher, though, we won't be able to say exactly until we've dealt with the 13th check issue that was before the pension committee, and that we'll be taking action on one way or another fairly soon now. If the 13th check matter goes forward, then the actuaries will recalculate the amount of money that we're required to put into the pension fund. We'll still have to put at least $900,000 extra in it over last year. And it could be considerably more than that. So when you add that result up with the fact that we've had to reallocate additional millions in the last couple of years to the police fire pension, you begin to get a picture of why our budget is stressed.
So I did do the one online situation, and it answers the question, are these really on the chopping block? And they said, no, it's just a simulation, but are these really on the chopping block?
Can I get that, because it's false language. What it says in this survey is, yes, this is a simulation, but does that simulation represent real programs that could be in jeopardy? Yes, that is true.
So has anybody ever said, yes, they want to reduce neighborhood snow removal?
I don't think have we had that on the I don't think we've had it on the survey before. We talked about it one time in a community conversation, which was sort of interesting, when we had a very long debate where people actually, at the end of it, at least the majority in the room, said they would go with the higher standard to save the money.
Realistically?
Well, but again, Jane, it was not 900 people. It was a room full of about 80 people, and half of them said, yes, we should go that route.
Okay, good to go? Thank you.